have angry outbursts.
Angry outbursts.
Yeah, my tolerance for frustration is quite low, and often, unpredictably, I blow up. If I'm having a bad day, you're going to have a bad day. I take my stress out on you. I raise my voice. I use profanity. I throw things, and I damage property. I fly into a rage over the smallest, most trivial things. After my outbursts of rage, I act as though nothing happened, or I'll stay angry and cold for days. I don't think I have an anger problem, so I won't ever get help to fix it. I underlined and highlighted a couple sentences out of here because it's like I had these weird things happen in my marriage. Like it would be constant, like he would borrow my computer or my iPad, or he would always like destroy my things, or like they would get like the screen would get broke, and then
I was not taking care of your things.
Right, and I'd be like, I work hard to be able to buy these things or provide them for our kids, and then you just like damage them, and then I'm just supposed to deal with it, and then I'm like a terrible crazy person because I'm upset that my things got broke. Like I even get sensitive, girl, like when I've saved my points up, because I love a good coupon, and I would save my points up and I would have like something from the grocery store, like I got like a ramekin and I got it, saved up my 70 points to get that free ramekin, and he would just break it, and I'd be like, but I can't get another one. That was free with my 70 points. You know what I mean? And so I'm just like beside myself.
It's the principle.
Yeah, and he'd always be like, I'll buy another one. I'm like, but you can't. It's from my points from the grocery store. You know what I mean? It would just irk me so bad. And I'm just like, these are my things that I worked hard for. Like, and I don't want to have to keep replacing them. It's like you just didn't know a value of the dollar. And so that was really tough. That was really tough for me. Yeah. So the next one is I'm violent. When I get angry, I have to hit someone.
Oh my.
Since you are the one who usually gets me angry, I hit you. I slap you, punch you, choke you, pin you down, and whatever else I feel like doing in my rage. It isn't my fault I get angry. It's your fault. So don't provoke me and I won't hit you. Yeah. Just so you know, I'm never going to stop hitting you. I can tell you that this is the only one, and you can see it, that I didn't have any highlights in. So
I've never experienced that.
You have with your parents.
I mean, I've never experienced it firsthand.
Yeah,
I have experienced it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I'm even sensitive to like voices or anything like that because of that one. And I will, if anybody ever touches me, I will probably like a superhuman strength would come out. Like
I have never had anyone hit me,
it.
but I had like with my ex, he would get in my personal space, and I'd be like, he's not a small guy, so I'd be like, get back, like get back, you know what I mean? And so the same thing with like, maybe pushing me or.
See, I would panic. I wouldn't panic. I would probably black out.
Yeah. The first time we split up was when Taryn was 5 months old, and it's because he spit in my face. And that was like so vile. I literally was like, here I am holding my baby, and I just had to like cry and look in the mirror and be like, there's got to be something.
I dated someone that I watched him 2 different times spit on people. No. And I thought that was the most disgusting
I don't like white stuff
thing that I've ever seen. That I just think that is like one of the most inhumane things you could do to somebody to make them feel like degrading things that you could do to somebody. No.
Probably the worst thing that ever happened to me in my marriage was I was 7.5 months pregnant, physically wise. He never like hauled off and hit me.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to agree to that. But he did bend me over backwards when I was 7.5 months pregnant and put me in a headlock, all because I had asked for 5 pairs of underwear for my birthday and he didn't get them. And I'm like, well, I needed those underwear. You know what I mean? And so like somehow that was like, set him off or whatever at the time. But I will tell you, like, when we got back together, like the physical stuff and getting in my personal space, that stopped. But the verbal kind of kicked in, right? And so that was like, and then just like
it's interesting too that a lot of people don't think that think that verbal abuse is like holds up in court and
that's
stuff
why
like
I love
that
this,
with women,
right?
And they kind of act like it's not real or whatever. And I think it is very real.
I think that's why this book like helped me so much, because it's like so much manipulation was going on. And I think that so many, when they hear the word abuse, they think like, oh, they're hitting them or giving them a black eye, or they're, like I was called a bitch a lot in my marriage, like a lot. And I would be like, don't call me that. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I know without a shadow of a doubt, I'm never going to be a bitch again. And if I'm in dating, like I have had a guy like called me a bitch and I'm like, peace out. I'm done.
You're my bitch.
Yo, I love that. Woo, girl, please. Yeah. So like, I just like this book was so eye-opening for me because I knew things were going wrong in my relationship.
It's very black and white.
Right. It's very black and white. And like, I don't want for women or for men to think that abuse is only like the physical part because it's not. It's so many other facets and there's so many other things that are abuse and that are going on in relationships. And if you have even one of these things going on, if that can't be fixed or if it's to an extreme, I would recommend you get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one is I'm an alcoholic. I love to drink and I'm not going to stop. It makes me feel good and helps me escape the stresses of life. My drinking makes me mean and verbally abusive, stupid and silly, or completely silent and uninvolved. I hide my drinking and I lie about it. It ruins just about every party, vacation, and special occasion for us, and many days and weekends in between. Well, it ruins these days for you. I'm fine with it. I need the alcohol in order to enjoy myself. I will never admit it. I'm an alcoholic. I can stop drinking anytime I want to. I just don't want to. I highlighted some sentences in here. I wouldn't say that I did because I wouldn't say my ex was an alcoholic by any means. He just didn't have an off switch. And what really hit home with me was it ruins just about every party, vacation, and special occasion for us. He was drunk on my wedding day. I literally walked up down the aisle. We did get married in Mexico. And I asked him, like, literally, I was like, are you drunk? But I knew he was drunk because I'd watched from my suite getting ready. He was playing flip cup down at the pool while I'm getting ready. You know what I mean? So that probably should have been my first clue. But
it's just, I think that special occasions like that deserve better.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I went on trips after trips that I had won from my company that I had worked all year long for us to go. And there's always open bars. And because it wasn't about him, he would, like want to wear Louis Vuitton and Gucci and wear all the, designer things and, try to outshine me because that event wasn't about him. And then here we'd be in the room and, it was always like, well, this person talked to you, or I'm not going to go with you to awards night. And here I'd be crying and be begging him and be like, this is my job. Like, please stop. And when we went to counseling, like that was a big issue for me. I was like, look, like you've literally like ruined every trip that we've ever been on, that was for my company for all these years because somehow, some way we always end up in a fight.
And that's the thing about alcohol is like, it can be fun and it can be whatever, but when it starts messing up the life and those special moments and like it says in there, like you be mean or it's altering your personality or anything like that, and you don't want to talk about it or acknowledge it, then you have a problem.
Yeah,
and if you can't have a conversation about it and be real about it, then you're in trouble. You know what I mean? Like you can still support that person and keep leading them in the right direction, but then you also have a point where you're like, you as a woman or a man have to decide, is this what I want my life to be like? You know what I mean?
And I know that you dealt with that as a child, like, with your dad being an alcoholic, and I know that that's a trigger for you, and so someone that's going to drink on a daily basis, that's a trigger for you.
It is because, it just is. And I was, I've always wanted, like with Brylan when he was growing up, like he probably never saw alcohol. He probably never saw me even drink alcohol. And I made a conscious decision to do that because I was still young. All that was still pretty fresh. I was still in that. I was still going back to see my dad, and it was still full on partying. Like, he was in a bad marriage, and, you're just seeing all the ramifications of it and all the things that happened to me in my life that I didn't feel like somebody was coherent enough or to protect me or, I mean, I would be asleep. We would be asleep in my room, or our rooms, and our rooms weren't even sacred enough because people that were drunk would walk in and sit on the bed or make out or start having sex, or like while we were laying there, like this is our room. What are you doing? Get out. Like there was nowhere.
No boundaries.
There was no boundaries. There was no like protection. Like, thank the Lord nothing happened to me in those moments. But I always think like, thank the Lord nothing happened to me in those moments. And that all of these people that were around, you know, respected my dad enough, I guess, to know that was his daughters or whatever, or they were just, you know, never did anything to us. There were many opportunities though, you know, looking back, like you could have been asleep in your bed so I guarded that with my life. Like when I had a child, I was just like, it was funny because like when Brylan, you know, was old enough to drink and go to bars and all that, it was funny because he was like texting me like, give me a drink really quick, I can order, like I don't know what to order, and I just ordered a Sex on the Beach, help, and I look like a girl, you know, all these things. But I was proud of that because I was like, that wasn't it wasn't a daily thing in his life enough for him to know what drink to order. You know what I mean? I would be like, bro, order an old fashioned, come on, you know, and he'd be like, thanks, that came in clutch or whatever, you know, because it just wasn't a part of our life. I didn't want him to see me in that light and lose respect for me or anything like that. Now with my kiddos now, we'll make a drink by the pool and we'll get silly for a minute, but we always rein it back in. I'm never gonna not know what's going on with my children. Like I just have that switch in my head, I guess because of the way that I grew up, that I don't let myself get out of control. I just don't.
Not with our kids present. It's not happening.
It's almost like I want to sometimes, like, oh, I just want to let loose. And it's just stuck in the back of my head, you know? And I'm a lightweight and I just can't, but it's just always stuck in the back of my head because of that. So yeah, I think that's a really good one.
Next one is probably going to ring home with you again.
God, why are they all ringing home to me?
No, like I don't have anything
You're like,
highlighted in this one.
Wasn't highlighted.
Yeah, I'm a drug abuser. Even though I'm an adult, I use harmful drugs. They help me cope with stress. They give me a rush. If I don't use harmful drugs, illegal or legal, I'm addicted to prescription drugs. My drugs are more important to me than God, you, our kids, and my career. I'll do the occasional rehab, but I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
So I think that rings home for sure, like, you know, with your childhood and with siblings.
Because addiction is like...
runs rampant in your family.
My biggest thing that I hate in the whole world, I'm like, because there's nothing that you can do about it with people that you love. Like, it could be your spouse, and you could love a sober version of them. And then you get to that version, and you're like, and you keep like battling with yourself in your mind, like, but they're a good person. I know they're a good person. Like deep down, I know they're a good person. You know, I do this with like family members, everybody. I'm like, but I know their heart, you know, but at some point you do have to realize they're making these decisions and at the risk of losing family or you or whatever, especially if you're voicing it and they're not changing it. Or there's so many programs that you can do if you really wanted to do it. Like there's really no excuse unless if your marriage is on the line or your relationship is on the line. That's just the way there's so many like programs, but it's also going to mean that person has to support them through it too. But you know, as long as that person's willing to support them through it, it should be fine. But it kind of sucks too, because like sometimes you don't really know the person, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so that's a tough one.
And it's something that you may have to deal with because it's an addiction issue that like off and on for their entire life.
And you will have to. Like I had a conversation with a girl at work the other day, and she said, unfortunately, I knew when I married him that I would have to deal with this for the rest of my life. And I made that decision. You know, what a hard decision to make and go through with a marriage and know that you're going to have to deal with that for the rest of your life. Like, like she said, she knew that when she accepted that ring, that she would have to accept that part of him. I'm like,
good for her.
Yeah, but it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next section, you ready? Whew, we're getting a little heated here. I have sexual issues. I need sex, a lot of sex. So I pressure you for it all the time. I force you to do sexual things you really don't want to do. I don't want or need an emotional or physical connection with you. I just want sex. At times, it will feel like rape to you. Whoa, it's a little deep, but I know that happens in relationships. But I don't care. You're not going to do anything about it. Or I'm on the opposite side of sexual desire and refuse to be physically intimate with you. You ask for sex, then beg and plead and cry, but I reject you. I'm going to reject you sexually as long as as you stay with me.
Oh my gosh, how did you feel about that?
I underlined the last sentence. I'm going to reject you sexually as long as you stay with me.
That took such a toll on your confidence. I think that was one of the biggest.
I think the crazy thing is when we were younger, like our sex life was great.
I think that was one of the hardest things that you couldn't get past because it wasn't that your desires weren't being met, which that was part of it, because we're human and we all have intimacy desires. It did take a toll on you because every single time y'all would come to an agreement and it would be better and all that, and then it would go right back for another 6 months or 2 months or 3 months, and then you're back to begging again, and then you were just so down on yourself physically, like trying to change things about your physical appearance. And you're gorgeous and beautiful, and it was crazy. There's nothing, but that is where your mind, a woman or a man's mind would naturally go, is like, what's wrong with me? Where are you? And then you start saying, well, what are you doing? And who are you doing it with? I mean, there's so many things that would run through your head that would make you feel crazy. Right.
And it's like such a form of control, like to withhold. And in the Bible, it says you do not withhold from your partner. I had both extremes. So like when we first got together, it was like sex all the time. We were young. And then leading up to our wedding, we already had a kid. And so we had a kid going into a wedding, and I wanted to try to make our wedding night special. So I asked for no sex for 6 weeks leading up to our marriage. And he lost his shit.
Did y'all do it?
We did, because I forced him to, and I literally paid the price for 20 years. Every fight we ever got in about sex, that always came up. He never let it go. And
from your wedding,
the crazy thing is we didn't even have sex on our wedding night. He got drunk, and wanted to stay out, and he stayed out and partied. And I went back to the room and went to, we went into town, went dancing, came back, and he wanted to stay at the hotel bar, and I went to bed.
Hallelujah, this stage is over.
Yeah, girl. Yeah, so I know what I won't tolerate in the next relationship. I'm going to get all the sex,
That
girl.
was just your, just your guinea pig relationship.
Yeah,
marriage. It's just your, tester outer.
There you go. Okay, the next one is I'm a sexual sinner. I like porn, and I watch it whenever I can. It's so easy to access, and it's not hurting anyone except for you, and I don't care about you. I have emotional affairs with coworkers, neighbors, and Facebook friends at times. I may also have had physical affairs. Hey, I have sexual needs, and since you won't meet them, what choice do I have? I'm going to continue sinning sexually because it's fun for me. Since you know about my sexual sins and stay with me, I guess you're okay with it. Like I care.
Like I care.
Isn't that crazy?
That's basically what they're saying.
I know we both had issues with our exes and porn, and I remember you telling me the stories about, you'd be like, I saw
affairs.
Affairs. You had that too.
All of it.
All of the above. I can remember having sex, being on trips and having sex, maybe during the day or something, and then catch them, watching porn at night, and it just makes you feel like it wasn't good enough, and what is it on that video that you're watching?
I mean, when it becomes an issue like that, it's like you're never going to
live up to it.
That's what, therapists and the advice that you get is it's so not real.
Yeah.
And you're never you get a false sense of reality where the reality is never going to be good enough.
The gaslighting that comes with that too. If I had a $1 for every time I was told, every man watches porn, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not doing anything wrong, which is, that's such a gaslight. But it was an issue off and on for, it probably was the entire time. I just, I would get tired of just catching them in the office or catching them, I just got tired of it.
And isn't it embarrassing to walk in on somebody?
Yes.
Or is it just me? It's humiliating. to yourself as well, because
Yeah.
you're like, do I talk about this later? Do I act like it didn't happen? Do I like? It's so like,
Yeah.
it's I hate it so much.
Yeah.
It's like I would just be like, I don't know where
What
do
to
I
do.
look or what do I say? You know what I mean? It's just, and yeah, you're never gonna meet that expectation
It's just
because
not reality.
especially when you have kids and you have babies and you're busy and you're not gonna wear a full lingerie and all this stuff. You know, sometimes you're just not going to do it.
Right.
So it's not real. They're getting paid.
And I can tell you, like, when you also, like, to piggyback on the sex thing, it's like when you go long periods of time without sex, it's so miserable because it's almost like it's so awkward because it's like you're doing it the first time all over again and you can't get in a rhythm. It makes it so awkward and it's almost like starting all over again. And it's just like, oh my gosh.
Gabe and I do not have that problem. I do not have that issue.
I don't have that problem on my dating life.
Yeah,
either.
no,
Girl.
we all good on that department. Yeah. And I like that it's not like what you were saying before, like always or anything. Like I just feel like you shouldn't even keep score.
Yeah.
You know, unless it goes like you're saying a long, huge period of time, and that person is like, hey, like, what's going on?
Right.
But if say you go a little stretch or whatever because you're busy and you have life and you work and you got kids and all that, so what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Until it's, you know, y'all are both like, oh my gosh, or one, you know, and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, because sometimes you're just not on the same page either. I just think why make it an issue, you know, unless it is an issue, but you don't have to. I don't like when women or men feel like, you know, it has to be every day or it has to be every other day or like they're going to be punished because it's been 2 days or like that is just making that person not want to.
Right.
It's actually doing the opposite. Like if you're counting and you're saying this and
you don't initiate
and you're arguing about it all the time, it takes the fun out of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then it's awkward and then you don't want to. And it's like,
and then you get scared to ever say no. And if they do,
and
like,
then you don't want to say no because you don't want to feel like you're rejecting them, but you actually don't feel good, you know? So it's just such a, you just have to communicate and talk about it, I guess.
So here's the last one. You ready? We've rounded up. So I blame you for everything. It's never my fault. Whenever there's tension or conflict in our relationship, it's your fault. Whenever I'm upset and I'm upset a lot, it's your fault. I blame others too, but eventually I'll get around to blaming you. Our money problems are your fault. Our marriage problems are your fault. If our kids get in trouble, it's your fault. If you're miserable and depressed, guess whose fault that is? It's always your fault, and it will always be your fault.
Wow.
I know that one rang home with me because I just always felt like it was like, you know, it didn't matter what if it was the kids or our marriage or sex or whatever issue it was or his cheating or the porn, I would try to talk to him about it and it somehow was always my fault. It was always like the finger pointing back at me, and then he would attack me and well, you're not doing this and you don't do this and it's your fault, you know, and so it was always my fault. It is. It was so exhausting.
Yeah. There was so many times I would talk to you and I just felt like you were just exhausted.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because your business is like actually busier and thriving more and you have more locations and everything. And I never hear you say you're tired.
I know.
I mean, I don't remember the last time. Yeah. I mean, I'm always complaining about it, but you're just blowing and going and I mean, but that's what it did to you. It just depleted you so much to where you just were in your bed. Yeah. And I don't ever see you do that anymore. So rare that I see you just, but that's when you're just chilling.
Yeah.
Literally.
So this book was like literally
you're like,
eye-opening.
Check.
Yeah, check. All except 2 things, right? And so I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, and so I just wanted to like really have an open dialogue and give live examples because I want people to know that abuse comes in many forms. And I highlighted this sentence and it says, abusers don't have warning labels. Of course, abusers don't talk this way. If they did, no one would ever date or marry them. They're all about looking good, and saying these things out loud would not make them look good. But I know abusers, and this is what they think and do. Abusers can be incredibly charming. They're wonderful in the dating phase of a relationship. They don't show their abusive traits until you've fallen in love with them. Once an abuser has your heart, the abuse begins, and there is a very good chance it will never stop. I highlighted that whole entire paragraph there because it just rang home with me. Like it
Yeah.
literally, like this book, like those 4 or 5 pages, like changed my life because I went from feeling so crazy and so gaslit and so down on myself, thinking like, this is somehow my fault. This is somehow like, that is my fault for the way he treats me. I'm doing something wrong.
The interesting thing too about all of those things is all of those things can happen in your marriage. They probably all will at some point.
Right.
And so I think that's important too. Like those will always come up. It's the way that you ended that each chapter was like, and I'm never going to change or I'm never going to do anything about it or whatever. It's when it goes on for so long.
It becomes a pattern.
Talked about it and nothing is changing. I think that is when it becomes abuse.
Right. And it's like,
because we're going to make mistakes.
Right. Of course.
They're going to make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to make mistakes.
Right.
We're all human. None of us are perfect, but it's like having the conversation and adjusting and doing your best. You know what I mean? Like if you can have an adult conversation and redirect and adjust and you see that somebody's doing that, there's hope, you know?
Right.
But it's when you know, it's your fault. It's your fault. You're crazy or what. You can't get anywhere with any of these topics because.
And you can't get anywhere because they see you as the problem.
Yeah.
You know, in their head, they really think that you're the problem and they've made up in their head that you're the problem. And so like, you know, like.
And then they're dead and they're going to die. And then they dead what I call it? The dead seed or something like that.
Yeah, they've got a terminal illness.
Yeah, and then they're terminal. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's a joke.
But I really want for people to know.
Like, I want you to know, like, all of these things could happen.
Right.
You know, we could all struggle with
it's really,
alcohol for a while. Or we could all struggle with, you know.
And I'm not saying like, oh, everybody go and leave like your situation. But for me and my situation, shit, it was all happening. You know what I mean?
For 20 years.
Yeah, for 20 years. And on multiple occasions. And guess what? I'm responsible. I have to take accountability because I tolerated it.
But that's why counseling is so important. That is why educating yourself is so important.
Yes.
If you can't reach out to a counselor, there are groups, there are support groups, there are people, there are friends, there are Google, YouTube, TED Talk, you know, the library.
This book. Enough is enough.
Do something where you can educate yourself and be like, wow, I had no idea. Because so many people have no idea that any of those things could be categorized in that way.
It's a tough conversation. Like this is a tough topic. I think it's not an easy topic to talk about.
Really
it's
calling me out over here.
Shoot, calling myself out over here. I'm over here with a highlighter. Yeah, like a highlighter and underlining. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know what I can say, and I meant it. I wrote my ex a letter, and I basically
did he ever reply to that letter?
No, he put the letter and the book back on my car, and like 3 or 4 days later,
like at the class or something.
Yeah.
He left it on your car. He didn't even keep the letter.
No, he left it on my car.
Do you have the letter still?
You know, I know the letter. He also wrote me a letter like during the separation.
Oh yeah.
You know, like and put it in Spencer's book bag or whatever. But that was like, please, you know, it was the same things he had said, you know, I'm going to keep that for a special day because he actually dated it. So I'm like, that was, you know, like you put a date on this, you know what I mean? Like, but I don't even care, but I've forgiven him and I have to forgive him in order for myself to heal. You know what I mean? And I think that that's why I feel so much lighter now. It's like, okay, I know my truth. I know what I lived. I know what I endured. None of that matters anymore because Megan is going to heal Megan. I just want him to break the cycle for our kids because I don't want him to be doing the same things in any relationship because I don't wish that even upon my worst enemy. I don't wish that type of behavior or someone to have to endure the things that I endured.
And you're aware now moving forward, which is the amazing part of it all, because some people are never aware, and they just go right back to the same old because we are like susceptible to the same person all over again, usually, unless you understand.
Yes.
Oh, I like that.
I do.
I love conversations like that.
I know, it's a good one.
All day long.
We would love for you guys to follow us on all the platforms, Spotify, and on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Mm-hmm. What's your handle, sis?
Bye.
Love you guys. Bye.